scientists, and some politicians remind us daily that our planet is in danger. Climate change, deforestation, overfishing, loss of wildlife. There are many challenges ahead of us. And we know a lot of things must change if we want this planet to survive. Not at least our behavior must change.
So the question is, how can we shape behavior that benefit the planet? Practitioners and scientists are starting to realize that brain-related sciences such as neurosciences, behavioral economics, and social psychology could provide insights that help solve this problem. With our case study, we want to humbly contribute to the better practices in social marketing.
To study the effect of social marketing, we choose to measure the impact of the Greenpeace Boreal Forest campaign for the following reasons. 1. Deforestation is a visible fact that we know is detrimental to the health of our environment. 2. It is a subject we hear less often than other environmental issues, and so we could reduce the impact of potential biases. And 3. We were very happy that Greenpeace agreed and forwarded us the video in a format that allowed us to include it in the research questionnaire.
The goals we set forward in this study are: we wanted to learn more if and how the video was able to influence on the change of attitudes. Based on this case, we wanted to identify errors and contribute to the best practices in social marketing.
So when it comes to sustainability and environmental issues, it seems to be difficult to change people's behavior and to change, above all, their habits.
What is our research question? To what extent does Greenpeace's audiovisual campaign, Save the Boreal Forest, raises emotions and reaches out the consumer's non-conscious to mobilize them to change their behavior?
The Great Northern Forest, our planet's green crown. The Great Northern Forest is a vast area of ancient boreal forest that stretches from Alaska through Canada and Scandinavia, all the way to Russia. Although separated by oceans, this is a single ecosystem. It remains the territories of many indigenous peoples and is home to countless species of plants and animals. Since the end of the last ice age, the Great Northern Forest has accumulated and conserved enormous amounts of carbon in its trees and soils. In fact, it stores more carbon than all tropical rainforests added together. Therefore, this immense forest plays a critically important role in holding back the impacts of climate change. But it is under increasing threat from industrial-scale logging, fires, and the impacts of climate change. Every year, huge areas of boreal forest are destroyed, and large amounts of carbon are released into the atmosphere. Trees that stood tall for centuries are turned into cheap furniture, disposable cups, and toilet paper. Protecting the Great Northern Forest means protecting the rights of indigenous peoples, biodiversity, our climate, and ultimately, all life on Earth.
Two Nobel Prize winners, Daniel Kahneman in 2002 and Richard Taylor in 2017, brought evidence of how important it is to understand the impact of the non-conscious on human behavior. In his book, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, Daniel Kahneman divides our decision-making process into systems. System 1 produces the fast, intuitive reaction and instantaneous decisions that govern most of our lives. And System 2 provides the deliberate type of thinking involved in focus, deliberation, reasoning, or analysis, such as calculating a complicated math problem, exercising self-control, or performing a demanding physical task.
Hence, A majority, 95%, according to Harvard professor G. Saltman, of consumers' decisions are made by the implicit and mainly non-conscious mind. People can't articulate what drives their behavior because they don't have full access to those deep and hidden mental processes. In his book, Nudge, Improving Decision about Health, Wealth and Happiness, Richard Thaler, in 2008, describes how non-conscious processes drive behavior and choices.
The ICODE software is based on the response time methodology, also known as reaction time. Explicit statements by consumers are important, but they do not always reflect their actual behavior. It is difficult to get accurate information from their consciousness. The measurement of time that the brain of individuals needs to produce an answer allows us to deduce the certainty of their opinions and the likelihood that their opinion will translate into real behavior. Quick responses indicate strong attitudes that are linked to consumer behavior, whereas slow answers suggest that consumers are unsure about their attitudes or that they have not yet made their decision. These types of responses indicate doubt or disbelief, and consumers are therefore less likely to act in this way. The response time test makes it possible to estimate the quality of the association and thus the conviction of the respondents. Consequently, it is possible to predict their behavior. A strong association causes an immediate response. A rapid reaction time translated strong attitudes. These often leads to consistent behavior. This test enables to assess the level of consumer conviction and to identify the parameters leading them to a decision, and thus to a behavioral response. This method is simple to use without being a neuroscientist and without having an advanced neurological analysis technologies. The response time is not an intrusive test and can be contextual. It does not require expert skills, and its costs are not too high in comparison with other methods of investigation of the non-conscious mind.
The sample totalized 94 people. The target sample was 50% men and 50% women, 50% between 18 and 39 years old, and 50% between 40 and 99 years old. This choice was made to best represent the population without sociodemographic distinction. The people who took part in this study first had to react to words or sentences defined by default to calibrate the software on the speed of lecture and screen behavior for each single participant. Then, 6 warm-up questions were used. Once this preparatory part was done, respondents had to answer 11 yes or no statements. They then watched the Greenpeace awareness campaign video. Finally, they had to answer positively or negatively to 11 statements comparable to the first ones. The results of this double test allowed us to measure the impact of the video on their beliefs.
The ICODE software produces results as the extracts presented to you. The results can also be presented in a more targeted manner according to gender group or age group or other criteria you might introduce. The color code, green, orange or red, reflects the strength of an attitude and therefore the certainty of a response that can produce behavior related to it. At the higher the speed of response, the more confident respondents are in their opinion. Green indicates high certainty, orange indicates medium certainty, and red indicates low certainty. A percentage indicates the number of people who answered yes or no. Percentage on the color in the figures on the left, exp in the figure on the right. The LSS level scoring system is a coefficient indicating on a scale of 1 to 9 the certainty of the respondents. The higher the number, the more certain the respondents were in their answer when they provided it. This score is found on the far left or right in a colored square. The high yes left and the high no on the right indicate respectively the percentage on a white background in the figures on the left of respondents who were very certain or very uncertain of their opinion regarding the statement.
We can observe in this table that beside the individual scale, I act at my own level to save our planet, there's only a low connective effect on the video and significantly lower than before watching the video. I pay attention to what I consume, which still engages 46% with a high yes drops to 13 and even 21% after watching the video. It suggests that as long as we can decide for own at our own scale what is ecological behavior, we are very convinced, 65, even going up to 80% after watching the movie. But the content of the movie does not seem to bring any evidence that stronger engagement would be the outcome. On the contrary.
Now, we want to know, does watching the video changes the opinion of the participants in the study? Well, there's a significant drop of -14% in high yes opinion when it comes of people saying they feel concerned. This can be considered as an indicator that the involvement of participants with the message of the video was low. Or in other words, 35% could not really relate to the content and connect it with their personal opinion on ecology.
First of all, the good news is that people claim that they are happy to make gestures for the environment. This, as we saw in the previous slide, as long as they can decide oneself to set the benchmarks. We can see a serious increase of negative emotions that will not necessarily lead to actions. The anxious feelings go up from 24 to 33%. The feeling powerless from 15 to 34%. The negative emotion from 1 to 14%.
Participants clearly say they are engaged. But when we look closer to our data, these data seem to suggest that people have their personal scale of what needs to be done. After watching the video, we can find that there is even a drop of 15% in their opinions.
Oriented behavior makes people feel happy, but this video makes people feel pessimist, sad and anxious, or in the best case, neutral. People may consider other options of behavior when you make them feel anxious.
If we want to engage people, we cannot just show them only long-term perspectives. We need to bring something close to their daily life. What is happening now can engage people. What is happening in the future will be much less engaging.
People claim to be happy when they act for the environment. So why not try to make them feel even more happy?
As a consequence, just be very, very careful when you use negative emotions, because you might get the contrary of what you are looking for.
It's all about a personal behavior. That means the message must engage the individual. So show direct consequences and use heuristics such as the lose reflex. Adopting a behavior to not lose something personally can provoke a positive emotion at the end.
Finally, you have to build on what is in people's mind available. There is simply no other option.